You wake up at 2 in the morning. Not because of a nightmare. Not because of noise outside. You just wake up. You lie there, staring at the ceiling. You check your phone. 2:17 a.m. And immediately, the thought arrives, something is wrong with me. You've heard it your whole life. 8 hours. Unbroken. That's what a healthy person does. So you try to force yourself back under. You count your breaths. You close your eyes harder. And the harder you try, the more awake you become. Here's what nobody told you. That moment, the one you've been treating as a malfunction, is one of the oldest things about you. It has a name. Has a history. And it was normal for 300,000 years. Until we broke it. In 2001, a historian named A. Roger Kirch published a paper in the American Historical Review that quietly dismantled something most people had never thought to question. He had spent 16 years going through pre-industrial documents. Diaries, court records, medical texts, prayer books, literature, sources from across Europe, spanning several centuries before artificial lighting changed human life. And in document after document, he kept finding the same thing. References to the first sleep and the second sleep. Not as exceptions. Not as disorders. As completely ordinary parts of the night. People would go to sleep shortly after dark. Wake up naturally after 4 hours or so. Spend an hour, sometimes 2, awake in the middle of the night. Then return to sleep until morning. This wasn't insomnia. There was no distress in the records, no complaints, no remedies sought. It was simply what nighttime looked like. Doctors recommended the wakeful interval for certain tasks. Scholars used it to read or write. Couples talked. People prayed. Some records suggest people described this in-between state as unusually calm, a kind of quiet that the day never offered. Kirch found references to this pattern in Homer, in Chaucer, in records from colonial America, from West Africa, from the Middle East. Not one culture. Not one era. Across documented human history, before electricity arrived, sleeping in 2 phases was the default. The question Kirch couldn't fully answer was why. That answer came from a different direction entirely. In the 1990s, psychiatrist Thomas Ware ran an experiment at the National Institute of Mental Health. He took a group of healthy adults and removed artificial light from their lives for several weeks. No electric lights. Short days. Long, dark evenings. Within a few weeks, something shifted. The participants stopped sleeping in one continuous block. They started waking up in the middle of the night, naturally, without distress, spending an hour or 2 in a calm, meditative state, then returning to sleep. Their hormonal profiles during this wakeful interval were unusual. Prolactin levels, a hormone associated with deep relaxation and the state just after REM sleep, were elevated in ways rarely seen during normal waking hours. One researcher described the state as similar to deep meditation. Not groggy. Not anxious. Just still. What Ware had done, without intending to, was remove the thing that had been suppressing the body's natural rhythm. That thing was light. Artificial light, gas lamps in the 1800s, electric bulbs in the 1900s, disrupts melatonin production by signaling to the brain that the day hasn't ended yet. The later you expose your eyes to light, the later your body thinks it should sleep, and the more compressed your sleep window becomes. For most of human history, darkness arrived early and lasted long. The body had time to complete its full, uncompressed cycle. The shift wasn't gradual. In cities, it happened within a generation of gaslighting becoming widespread in the early 19th century. By the late 1800s, references to the first and second sleep had nearly vanished from written records. Not because people stopped waking at night. Because they started pathologizing it. Now take that biology back further. Much further. Studies of contemporary hunter-gatherer societies, the Hadza of Tanzania, the San of the Kalahari, the Tsimane of Bolivia, give us the closest available window into how pre-agricultural humans actually slept. Anthropologist Jerome Siegel published findings in Current Biology showing that these groups, with no artificial lighting, don't sleep 8 hours. They sleep 6 to 7. They go to sleep hours after dark, not at sunset. And they wake naturally before sunrise. Their sleep is structured around temperature, not light. The body temperature dips lowest in the hours before dawn, and that is when sleep is deepest. But here's what matters for this conversation. Siegel's team found no epidemic of insomnia in these populations. No reports of chronic nighttime waking as a disorder. The sleep that did occur, though shorter in total duration, appeared to be more consolidated during its windows, more efficient, not less. Cross this data with what we know about cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, and something interesting emerges. In populations with high sleep fragmentation caused by artificial light exposure and noise, nighttime cortisol elevation is common. Cortisol is not supposed to be high at night. When it is, it means the body is running a low-level emergency signal in the background, a quiet alarm that never fully turns off. For ancient humans, the night was a different kind of thing. The fire was burning. The group was close. The threats of the day had passed. The wakeful interval between sleeps wasn't a crisis to be managed. It was, by all evidence, a space. A space for quiet, for thought, for the kind of cognition that doesn't happen under pressure. Some researchers have speculated, carefully, because the evidence is indirect, that this interval may have been connected to the consolidation of memory, to early forms of storytelling and social bonding, to the dreamlike thinking that precedes and follows deep sleep. We don't know exactly what ancient humans did in those hours. We know they weren't panicking about it. Agriculture arrived approximately 10,000 years ago. With it came something that changed the structure of human time more than any technology before the light bulb. Schedules. Crops don't wait. Harvests have windows. Animals need feeding at specific times. The sun became a clock rather than just a light source. And for the first time in human history, the night became something to be gotten through, a gap between one productive day and the next, rather than a natural extension of human time. Sleep had to be efficient. It had to fit. The luxury of a long, dark, unhurried night, the kind that allows the body to cycle naturally, began compressing. Then came gas lighting. Then electricity. Then the 24-hour economy. Each layer added another signal telling the brain, the day isn't over. Stay alert. There's still time to be productive. What modern sleep science is now documenting is the accumulated cost of that compression. Sleep deprivation at the population level is not a new discovery. What is newer is the understanding that the structure of sleep, not just the duration, matters enormously. Research from the University of California found that slow-wave sleep, the deepest phase, is critical for clearing metabolic waste from the brain, including proteins associated with neurodegenerative disease. This phase is disproportionately lost when sleep is compressed or fragmented. We didn't just lose hours of sleep. We lost the architecture. So the next time you wake up at 2 in the morning, and you just lie there, not quite asleep, not quite fully awake, try to resist the reflex. The reflex that says, I'm broken. This shouldn't be happening. Because here's what the science actually says. Your body ran a version of this cycle for 300,000 years before a 19th century city decided it was inconvenient. The alarm you feel in those moments isn't coming from the waking up. It's coming from the story you've been told about what waking up means. Roger Kirch spent 16 years in historical archives to find what your ancestors never needed to write down, because it was simply true. The night was always longer than we think. And somewhere in the middle of it, there was a moment of quiet that belonged entirely to you. We didn't lose sleep. We forgot what sleep was actually for.